Hey guys, it's Alan, and we're going to be continuing with Chapter 4 of Grand Design. Alright. Jesri bent an eyebrow at the dog. Why? What do you know about Harsey? Ruarb gave a strained look. Why don't you know about Harsey? It's been a no-go port for 30 years. Huh, really? Mused Jesri, absent-mindedly tugging on her hair. The last time I docked there, she coughed. Well, anyway, that was a while ago. Why is it a no-go? The captain didn't say anything about it when I mentioned it earlier. Ruar settled back on his hind legs and sniffed. The captain is as good as they come, but he's got no nose for danger. Me, I keep my ears up, hear rumors. He licked his nose. Rumor, Rumors aren't truth, but they give you a good picture after you hear enough of them. As best I can tell, it was kind of a rough port for a long time. Yeah, that's true, nodded Jesri. Sorry, she added, seeing the exasperated tilt of Ruar's head. Anyway, he continued, the crew running the docks cashed out, sold the codes. They were scum, but they knew which side of the hull held air. The new folks, not so much. Their teeth were too big for their mouth. Things went bad fast. After that, not many people hung around there, except after that, not many people hung around there except them like sorry. The new folks, not so much. Their teeth were too big for their mouths. Things went bad fast. After that, not many people hung around there except them like couldn't afford to ship out or were making too much money to skip. You were as likely to get your haul beaten out of you than bought if you docked. Jesri nodded. Yeah, that sounds like it would put a damper on traffic. Ruar snorted. Yeah, a bit. Just killers or idiots drop by, then not even them after a while. After a few years of no ships coming in, captains got to start wondering what a port looks like when it's got no outside callers for a span, all on its own in the void. Ruar shuddered. Some of the stories from those who did more than wonder get pretty fucking dark. Jesri frowned. Well, that's all pretty concerning, she said, but a bunch of starving bandits shouldn't give us too much trouble at the end of the day. Ruar made an indistinct noise and shot Jesri a look. Who said they were starving? Ew, okay, winced Jesri. Pretty dark indeed. Get us lined up in the approach corridor so we're clear of the docks. I'll check with Anja to see if there's another port that would work. Absolutely not, chirped Anja, the red glare of the medbay placed highlighting her blonde hair with an ominous dull carmine hue. That port is the only place we can go to pick up the trail. Jesri groaned. Ruar says it's pretty rough in there. This could get messy. Anja grinned at her. Sister, rough for the doggy doesn't mean rough for us. Besides, she said, we can just go through the abandoned parts of the station. If it's been a ghost port for 30 years, like he said, it won't be hard to avoid contact. I've been doing it in the I've been doing it the whole time on Indomitable. Frowning, Jesri nodded. Yeah, there is that. Do we have to go anywhere special? Anja shook her head, leaning against the door jamb. Nah, any of the sector data. Any. Nah, any of the sector data terminal should work. We can be in and out quick, 30 minutes tops. Uh huh, snarked Jesri. You said that on some other missions, like the extraction on Wonderland, with the masquerade ball. Anja Winston opened her mouth to reply, but Jesri cut her off. Ooh, or the data drop where we had to hide in the reprocessing tanks for a day. How about the snatch and grab where Colonel She got shot in the ass and we had to carry her for. Yes, yes, sister, point made, sighed Anja. However, in this case, I really don't see how anything. Don't you fucking say it, Jesri snapped, her eyes narrowing. Could go wrong, concluded Anja, smiling uh, primly. Jesri sighed, resting her forehead on her palm. I hate you. Jesri walked up to the bridge where Ruar was standing at the controls. All of his manipulators were extended, either hovering over physical controls or jacked into the console directly. His head jerked from side to side at random intervals. Jesri figured at least some of those jacks were overlaying visual information, maybe even tactile stimuli. So, he asked distantly, his voice echoing weirdly from several points around the bridge. His head didn't turn towards her, but small cameras mounted beside the view screen were tracking her face as she moved. How'd it go? Jesri moved beside him and leaned against a support beam. Anja says no joy. We've got to dock at Harsey. She paused, considering. You know, we've already put you two through a lot. If you want, we can hit up somewhere else spinward. We'll hop off and find another ship. I don't want to ask you to risk your life. There was a pause while the ship finished drifting into the approach corridor. The positional thrusters flaring brightly on the monitors. The thrusters died as the ship killed its momentum. Then Ruar unjacked and turned to face her directly. I'm not saying I believe your story, he said, licking his nose, but I believe what I can see. And I see that at least one of you has high-level access on that station. Jesri blinked slowly at him, her face neutral. What access would that be? He snorted. Please. I'm not some deck licker with my nose up a priest's ass. The station is a machine. The machine recognizes access. Do you know what the captain and I trade in? Jesri shook her head, and Ruar grinned, his tongue lolling out. We're locksmiths, Jesri nodded, considering. Every station past a certain size had a locksmith or two, and smaller ones depended on the traveling crews like Kiddick and Ruar. Although you could access almost any corridor and walkway in a station, the rooms were another matter. Hence locksmiths. Although the skill set involved made them more of a highly specialized electrical engineer. She could place them up at the top of their trade with a few well-chosen words. Okay, she said. Name your price. Ruar licked his lips. Full access, as much as you can give me, and the captain too. Jesri was shaking her head before he even finished talking. Absolutely not. There's no way I could give responsibility. Yeah. There's no way I can give responsibly. Yeah. There's no way I could responsibly give you access to open engineering security or weapon systems. She paced over to the side of the bridge, then swiveled to face him again. How about this? You stick with us for 1 or 2 stops past this. I'll come with you to 2 stations of your choosing and give you access to all residential and common areas. And kick too. Ruar tilted his head to the side, contemplating her offer. A small voice had begun screaming distantly inside his head after Jesri said the word engineering. excuse me, and had only gotten louder with each passing second. Ruar had thought he was asking for access to open any of the regular residential doors on the station. On the station they just left, which was full of angry Kita that would probably kill him on sight and give his stuffed corpse to their children. Even that would have been worth the risk, establishing Kiddick and Ruar as the richest people on the station and the most accomplished locksmiths in modern memory. Ruar tried cocking his head to the other side. The little voice was getting louder. Jezri had just implied that not only could she give him access on any station, she could also open the larger, more imposing doors that cordon the mythical command and control systems of a station. Everyone knew those were inaccessible to mere mortals, sealed until the death of the universe or a wayward black hole tore the station to pieces. The voice in Ruar's head was telling him that he should profess his undying love and devotion to this woman and beg her to allow him to remain in her divine presence. Instead, Ruar said, "How about 3 stations?" Jezri stared at him, expressionless, and Ruar was afraid he might have pushed it too far. After a few seconds, however, she smiled slightly and nodded. "Yeah, okay," she agreed. If you hang with us for a couple of jumps, you'll probably have earned it. Set course for Harsi." Ruar nodded and plugged back into the console, turning to face the viewer. That had flooded in, and for an eye blink he was blind, deaf, and numb. At once, reality snapped back in a new configuration. He could feel the metal of his skin, the plasma of his breath. He flexed the engines, feeling them burn strong and hot. "Okay," he said flatly, his voice issuing from every corner of the bridge. Heading to the ramp, the ship accelerated down the approach lane, and the thrum of the engine seeped into his body from the feet up. As he raced away from the docks down the center of one of the station's pedal-shaped lobes, he inched closer and closer towards the raised vein running down the center of its length. Jezri's view out the window was unremarkable, but Ruar saw a kaleidoscope flow of gossamer field lines just above the vein, receding into the distance and curving away from the station towards the great pinnacle at its center. He felt the shudder as he stabilized in the center of the field, then started to rise slowly with its curvature. "We're in the pocket," he broadcast over the intercom. "Brace for a transfer." He gritted his teeth against the sensation of the field charge soaking the hull like static crackling in his fur. A low rumble slipping from his throat as he accelerated into the deepest part of the ramp's spaceward curve. As they passed the midpoint, the directional charge from the straightaway was induced into motion by the asymptotic curvature of the pinnacle. The lighting wind swirled around him in gusts. Okay, so my camera ran out of battery, so I'm gonna continue from the last paragraph I read. He gritted his teeth against the sensation of the field charge soaking the hull like static crackling in his fur. A low rumble slipping from his throat as he accelerated into the deepest part of the ramp's spaceward curve. As they passed the midpoint, the directional charge from the straightaway was induced into motion by the asymptotic curvature of the pinnacle. The lighting The lightning wind swirled around him in gusts and bursts, spiraling into his bones. He was dimly aware of the other feet of Jezre's fastened tight into a bridge chair. Anja securing the captain in the med bay's but his but his universe was the ship and the lightning and the void. All at once they were off. They were off the curve, the ship leveling out at a perpendicular trajectory away from the station. The invisible tempest crackled, the loosened glow rising just ahead of the bow. Ruar spun up the drive gently, coaxing the field from potential into action. Streams of light splashing against the hull until all at once they bound, twisted, stretched. Space was pulled away in every direction at once, and the ship was gone. So, that's chapter 4, and see you in the next